This is episode 2 of our Banger Basics series, focusing on the hop-up of the Model A and B Ford 4-banger engine. Go ahead and grab your notebooks and your pencils. Buckle up, because you're watching Seattle Speed Shop. Alright, so last week we kind of primed you with our introduction to the A and B Ford engine, and this week we're going to just kind of talk basic hop up of it, just bolt-on stuff, nothing crazy. I'm Matt, this is Charlie. We're going to go play some ball, and then we'll be back. Alright, the real speed demon of the shop, Charlie, has been running for close to an hour and still wants to play with his ball, so he's at least chilling out on his bed for now. Alright, so we primed you last week kind of with the basics of the engine, and now we're going to kind of go over what I would do, just basic bolt-on stuff. Let's assume that you have a stock engine and it's in relatively healthy shape. And I'll be honest, I know exactly what it's like. You go start looking at all the stuff available for a banger engine, and where do you start? What's the best one? There's so many choices. It can be really overwhelming for someone just starting out. So we at least hope to kind of get you headed in the right direction here. So what I would do first, and I may catch some flack for this, get rid of this. Round file it. Actually, you know what? Stick this in your trunk if you're so blessed, or under your seat. Save it in case you're out somewhere, you break down, you need another distributor. What I would do, and this is just a stock engine before anything else, is either, some sort of aftermarket or upgraded distributor. Centrifugal Advance is what we're after. You have a few choices. Model B distributor, very good choice. Some of the pros is it can be had cheaply. If you know what you're looking for, say at a swap meet. It's a huge improvement. Like, I cannot stress how much this makes the car better to drive, even with no other modifications. You have some other options, like maybe an aftermarket Mallory distributor or an FSI, and those are each, just kind of up the scale of how much you want to spend. I think an FSI Centrifugal Advanced distributor is like $425. That's, how big's your pocketbook? Like, you can find a B distributor from anywhere from $50 to a rebuilt one for, $200, $250. I've seen quite a few in the $100 range. So I'd say that's kind of the basics. Then your next step up would be, say, a used aftermarket distributor like a Mallory. And then your next step after that would be a new Mallory type distributor, or the FSI, like I mentioned. Top of the range, you're going to be $400 or $500. Maybe even start thinking about like a Magneto. Again, $300 to $500. I'm pretty cheap, which is why I like B distributors. Cheap and easy upgrade. You'll be amazed at how much more responsive it makes the engine through the RPM range. Very, 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 very first modification. So, and then, I think a lot of, people's next reaction is, let's do an intake. So, most people, I think, are going to choose a dual carb intake just because it, it's like picking a camshaft. You go to the bottom of the page, pick the biggest one, more carbs, more better. Bangers are very responsive to more fuel. The thing you got to look out for is with like 297s on this, you're really going to be overcarbing the engine. What you want are Stromberg 81s, which are off of V860 engine, and they are rarer and more expensive. It's kind of a cost versus benefit thing. I know, a 2-carb intake has a lot of panache, but a single with like a 97 or even a Stromberg 48, which if you don't know Stromberg sizes, like an 81 is the smallest, and then you've got a Stromberg 97, and then a Stromberg 48 is the largest. But a single carb intake with a little bit larger carb, it's easier to tune, less parts to go wrong, easier to do a fuel line link. Like everything is easier about it, and I would say it performs pretty well. Like obviously this has better fuel distribution for the 2 cylinders than this does, but I wouldn't really count it out. I run a single downdraft on my truck. It works really well. Another great option is something like a dual updraft setup. No fuel pump. It's a little harder to tune though. I would do carburation stuff second. And the reason I say that is because if you just jump right ahead and you put a high compression head on, maybe you don't even change the distributor or the carburation, just go right for the head. You're not really going to see as much improvement from the head without the other steps. So I really feel upgrading your carburation at this point is kind of in preparation for what we do next. And that's going to be bolting a high compression head on. And this is where you're going to get a lot of the gain from. Model A starts out as 4.2 to 1 compression ratio. It's really low. And that's because of the gas at the time. It was just really poor. You have some limitations here. Try not to go higher than 6 to 1. I'm running 7 to 1. This is kind of a do as I say, not as I do situation. The more you increase the compression, the harder it is going to be on your bearings, which are Babbitt, which, they're kind of fragile. So they consider what's safe is 6 to 1 is kind of the limit. I don't have a 6 to 1 head here. In my previous Winfield video, if you want to see the 6 to 1 head, there's video of it in there. But basically, like the period way would have been using a Winfield. I know people think Winfields are rare. They actually were pretty common. They were very prolific back in the day. So like a 6 to 1 yellowhead Winfield would be great. A budget option, which is going to kind of get you the same thing, would be one of the Snyder's 6 to 1 factory look heads, which is kind of similar to a police head, which is what this is. A police head is 5.5 to 1, came out in 1931. It actually has a B part number in it because it came out before the 1932 Model B. And that's why there's a C on the Model B head. It's confusing, I know. Anyways, my point is 5.5, 6 to 1, great range to be in. A police head, you can have those for $300 to $500. I think the Snyder 6 to 1 head is $400. Where like a 6 to 1 yellow head on the open market, it's going to cost you $1,000 these days. I suppose we should have talked about, there's so many options, so many options. Like heads, for instance, do you want an aluminum head, or do you want a cast iron head, and should I get a Brearley head, or whatever head you decide. A lot of it has to do with your checkbook, because you can just go buy a 6 to 1 head that looks factory stock and bolt that on and be making great horsepower, and that's $400. You're gonna be hard pressed to do better than that. I know aluminum heads are flashy. I'm of the belief that cast iron is better, and that's mainly because it holds in the heat. Bangers run pretty cool naturally, and you kind of want the heat to help complete combustion events. Like, you know, like an aluminum head will dissipate heat quick enough that they run cooler, which doesn't, the engine doesn't run at its peak efficiency at that cooler temperature, even though, you know, it'll still be making good power. And, you know, let me preface this all with, you know, this is just my opinion on these things from having driven one for 10 years. With all this combined, I think you're probably, you know, looking at a 65, 70 horse engine, you know, tops. 60 is a good conservative estimate, I would say. And, you know, some of that's going to depend on, you know, 5.5 or 6-to-1 or dual carbs, wood ignition. So we're making power then. Like, it's really impressive. If you're frugal and do your shopping, you can probably spend like $1,000 on a stock A engine and put a head, a downdraft intake, and a distributor in it. If you're good at hunting for bargains at swap meets and shopping online, you could probably do it for, you know, $600, $700, $800. You know, it's part of the fun is hunting this stuff. So it's kind of just a question of how big your wallet is and what you can stand to do. So now we're making power, and I know one thing we haven't covered is the exhaust. So really a stock exhaust manifold, from what I understand, and this, you know, I haven't had it on a flow bench or a dyno, but they really do flow pretty good. The major cork in your exhaust system is a stock muffler. So hack that baby off, straight pipe this thing, and I think you're looking pretty good. I think that's about it. You know, this is all really basic, just bolt-on stuff that is easy to put on a stock motor and just have fun with it. You know, this will make it so that you can do 70 miles an hour and keep up with modern traffic. And they're really fun. They're really responsive to these modifications. You'll be surprised by how much seat of the pants difference it makes. I think with bangers, it's a good thing to think about them in percentages more than just like actual horsepower that they put out. You know, and think about, you know, this is a 50% increase. You know, if you make 60 horse, that's a 50% increase over stock. That's quite a lot for, you know, under $1,000. One thing that you really should think about is, like, at one time these were the fastest things on the road. So like, that's why I respect these old bangers and the flathead V8s is for what they were at the time when this stuff was new. You know, none of this is set in stone. You could bolt the head on first and then carb and then ignition, you know. I'm just telling you what way I would do it. So anyways, I want to thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys have a good weekend, and we'll see you next week. Say bye, Charlie.
Real quick, because I didn't mention it in the shop, our next video will be on advanced banger hop-up. We'll cover overhead valve stuff, the oiling system, insert bearings, kind of just more in-depth speed stuff, and getting into the internals of the engine. So we'll see you next time.